Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events installed. I've just, before starting this episode, while connecting headquarters for occupied units and things like that, I clicked the event to form the Croatian state. So, I like the way this is sort of done here, and that it just creates this, so we can still flow supplies through to the German units there. The Let's Play version, those of you playing it, does have a different event chain for forming various Yugoslavian states than the standard version. A balance, in my view, of history and the reality of the game engine. This one's on the attack. And who am I going to send in to support you? Okay. Small air search radar. So our air detection is improved. Now this would help us on navigation radar, which will help us spot surface, meaning ship type. Things. Subs aren't considered surface. How's our air? So the British there. Okay, now that isn't very forward thinking. So let's move these guys up to me. Looking to see if we have any fighters still in the east. No, there's a bunch over there in the west. Move them into Hungary. And artillery unit training has advanced. That is very nice. We'll do that. There. These forces here seem to be a lot of them at the moment. Were formed with events for forming Croatia. I think they take away a bunch of rebelling, if you will, Yugoslav forces, but for some reason they show up over here and they're still neutral, so they're just heading home. But oh cool, Army HQ says advance. That's really nice. Put it into 42, so we'll cancel that. Move it over to there. And this right here, with the delay between attacks reduced to 12, or reduced for this tech, it's reduced by 12 hours. Critical thing. The one drawback with the battle plans, using for the river names, they will be on top. It's a real drawback. It's not, it just shows up a little bit. Still a very good and very creative idea because, I know that Danube flows through here, but obviously this is identifying which one it is versus the Sava rivers that we're fighting over. Heading up into this mountain here, which will slow me down, but I want to come off of it into Belgrade. Single engine fighter prototype. Yay. Yay. We want to win that war. In the east, in the west, we want to win that war. Well, we need to start this up again, I think, so we'll do that. Mountain troops into the actual mountain battle. I'll get these fighters up. We're intercepting the region as well. Radios. Those are all doing fairly well. Well, Darian shall lead the attack. Make sure that he's in charge. That happened a little too easy. Now there's Greeks are gonna fight. Okay, we just defeated Yugoslavia. I have the Belgrade events, but for the moment we're not going to fire them just yet. We're going to finish defeating the Greeks. Because they're being stubborn and resisting us. Don't they know that resistance is futile? U.S. war machine just turned on unlimited national emergency. Okay. Yes, we'll accept. Good sign for us, the Bulgarians. Thinking they want to get into the war alongside us. Maybe. At least let us operate. And let's see how this guy goes. Okay. Chewing up the British. Now, at least temporarily, though we're going to get some of it back. We've got more leadership that we can use to research things. So we're going to improve our airborne forces a little bit more. Okay, theoretical jet engines have advanced. Notice we have a little bit of bonus there because of various events. Zagreb's gonna have a relatively big army there. Lots of headquarters. Probably too many. Greeks are snapping up a bunch of our territory. That's alright, we're coming. Okay, now we can produce some more units. And what's that? Like an artillery attack of some sort. training, special forces. What's SS stuff? What do you want to bet it's that? Via the stole the technology? I'm guessing that's what it is, because I haven't been researching political indoctrination, and that just jumped up. Okay, Conrad, you start the attack off. And then we'll throw in additional forces, mountain troops. Modal Walter, Modal, and von Malmsteen, all going to go against this army here. And Dietrich. Got done a few moments ago, before playing this, talking about the early historic structure and that Black Ice uses to simulate the Panzer Heavy divisions. And that's one of them there, the 1st Panzer Division. It's probably on this upgrade list. Yep, there it is, refit it, which will change the brigade composition from fewer tank brigades, but they'll go from light to medium armor, which is a good thing. Perception tactics have advanced, that's good. Improve naval pilot. No, we concentrate on that enough. Let's do tactical pilot. Bring it up a little bit there. We'll get a few of those rebuilt panzer divisions. Yes, this is essentially overkill. I know that, but whatever. We're going to smash what's left of Greece. Greece's army. Thinking here a bit. Well, one thing we're hardly producing is any naval forces. So, two torpedo boats, and 4 motor torpedo boats. Well, we're producing some heavy stuff up here. These Bismarck interprets to me are heavy. So is the Graf Zeppelin. Wait till the Graf Zeppelin is about halfway, then I'll do some CAG units. Let's go with one destroyer being... Now these I'm definitely thinking are being built in the Mediterranean, or whether in one of the captured Yugoslavian ports, which really couldn't build that stuff, but the being built in the Italian ports or some such thing. Okay. We have Silent Guns of December reorganization, right? That's sort of presuming that we weren't going to be campaigning in December, but obviously we are. Lots of units there that'll be getting some ICs, but let's... Alright, that'll keep us get our naval air warfare operating as well. Blizzards. Snow will make very difficult in northern part. The Alps, Soviet Union. China. Oh, we're doing alright. Uh-oh, we've lost a very high popularity. We're down to high. Got payment received for our aircraft production. Yes, we want the litter. Where's Wolfschutz? Okay, let's see. 6,000 supplies. Rastenburg Forest. Radar station. I'm going no, just because I don't like that 5% reduction until January. The Kammhuber Line. This is very interesting. As you can see here, the British at this time and through the bulk of the war were doing night bombing raids. Obviously, it's harder to target and locate an aircraft at night than it is in the day. But it's also fairly easy to bump into each other. So if you were flying in some sort of box formation like the Americans did, the Germans also did some formation flying to try to get their machine guns to help cover each other against incoming fighters. You would invariably have accidents at night, even though you're that close and from certain angles you can see the exhaust of other aircraft. But it just wasn't going to work. So what the British would do is stream their bombers over with a slight delay in between each of them. And so they would follow a pre-charted path that would create a stream of bombers coming in to a target, and they'd navigate through, and they would use sometimes mosquitoes once those are available, or other aircraft to come in just before dark as pathfinders, identify the targets that they wanted bombed, and then drop the bunch of fire bombs, magnesium flare type burning things. It would go down and cover the area and light it on fire. And magnesium, once it's lit on fire, is super hot burning, rather hard to put out. I mean, even with like trying to douse it with water, it's very hard to put out. And so that would normally create enough of a fire to give, so if they were, to give a good location. So if they correctly found the target just before dark, lit it up with these magnesium fire bombs that would stay burning. Obviously, the fire departments would try to put them out, and of course primarily target buildings or something. But the bombs themselves, they would be sort of hard to put out. So then the bombers would come over, navigate to the spot, get sort of near, see the fires burning, and go in and drop their bombs on top of the fires or in that region. So that's how they would come in at night. Now, this created a separation between the bombers. Well, the Germans were developing at this time now radars. If you've been watching the series, you know about the one Graf Zeppelin 2 secret mission to try to identify radar signals off the British coast. So that, and obviously with the fight over Britain, they've now more and more realized the effect. They knew about radar, they knew what it was, but how effective it was. So Kammhuber, where is he? And there. There, no. Obviously, somewhere here. Yeah. There he is. You can see him there. I put him in charge of some of my night fighters. Developed a series of boxes set up in a line with radar, and consisting of the Führer radar, that's a Norse Germanic god, and master searchlights directed by the radar, and a number of manually directed searchlights spread through the cell. Each cell was also assigned one primary and one backup night fighter. The RAF bombers would fly into Germany or France, had to cross the Kammhuber Line at some point, at which time the Führer radar operators directed the master searchlight to illuminate the plane. Once this had happened, manually controlled searchlights also picked up the airplane, and the night fighters were directed to intercept the bombers. And that's most assuredly part of it, but from what I also understand is that the radar operators would be would have both the location, and they would know the path, the stream of bombers coming over, and so a target would enter. And they would also see in this box, and they generally have one, have a backup fighter, but one fighter operating at a time in there, so they wouldn't run into each other themselves. And they would direct that fighter to get in close to the enemy bomber. And like it says, they try to put a searchlight on it to identify it. Also, I know if they got close to it, like I was just saying earlier, they could see the exhaust coming out, little spurts of flames. You sort of had to be behind it, sort of up at a similar altitude, to see that. You couldn't see it from the ground. And so to get in there and then come into attack. This is before Germany was mounting radars on the aircraft themselves. That comes a bit later. So they would come in there, flying at night, trying to see it, hopefully get the search radars to illuminate the bombers, and be vectored in and try to shoot them down. And it's sort of a one at a time situation. And so as the aircraft left its box, and this shows a line like this, but they were, my understanding also, they were a line, but they were maybe 2 or 3 boxes deep, so they would pass through. It depends on where they are, and obviously they where likely streams are coming through, they would concentrate. The boxes and put the radars, and so you would fly through several of them. So the fighters wouldn't ever follow the aircraft into somebody else's box, because they didn't want to have the problem of being run into each other or be misidentified, because the early radars wouldn't necessarily, I don't know the details, but I don't think they would necessarily identify the difference between a fighter and a bomber. Just a target up there, and so that you might vector in your own fighter on another fighter, and if nothing else, just waste time. So that was coming in, and it worked fairly well. It didn't stop any of the raids, because the rates, they just couldn't shoot down enough. Like I said, that they had, read here that they have a backup fighter. Part of that was whether it's fuel, if they were lingering around too long, or just running out of ammunition. The one that was needed to be refueled or rearmed would land, and the other one would be ready to go. Or simply, if, I imagine, I don't know this, but if one's out of place in the sense that he just made it to one edge of the box, and you're getting another aircraft coming into the box, and the other fighter was placed, they might switch over, similar sort of things like that. But they never had a high enough attrition rate that the British thought of calling off the raids. So it was never effective enough. They were shooting down British planes with this method. It most assuredly increased the cost for Britain to bomb, but it wasn't enough for Britain to call off the bombing. The thing is the weather isn't like where I live in Europe. where I live in California, it wasn't like that in Europe. And that it isn't always good. It isn't always easy to identify the targets. They would coming over near dusk to identify the targets and misidentify. Sometimes it was the wrong town, sometimes just the wrong factory, so that they're bombing at the north side of the town and the south side of the town, and bombing an inconsequential factory or whatever. The Germans would also at times realize what was happening and got to where they'd go set up a bunch of fires out in a field somewhere, but that from the air, because they experimented with some of this stuff, so that it looked like the fires that you would start in a with one of the Pathfinders would start. So it would have, so which one do you attack? So you're just trying to get bombs to drop. Well, you'd like them to drop in places that won't harm anybody or anything, but secondarily, you just want them to not be very effective at disrupting war effort industries. So even if there was only one fire going on, or a group of fires, but in one area going on that was illuminated, they were dropping the bombs early, they were dropping the bombs late, they were a little north, a little south, whatever, and a lot of them weren't hitting the target. So they, you can talk about the cost-benefit analysis of how much it's destroying war industries. But still, you had all this effort of personnel, of material, putting all the radars up, putting the fighters up, all of that stuff that was could have been used in other areas, so you had that thing. Is not necessarily always what you destroy, but what you're diverting from other uses. So that, and these sort of circular triangle things, those are flak towers. They'd build those in cities like Berlin around. That would make it more costly to come in. So we can organize this, which will cost us some supplies, give us various air defense and radar improvements. Get Kammhuber Line, which increase air intercept efficiency and air organization, or not do it. We're going to spend the supplies. I'll do that. So that was the Kammhuber Line. It was good. I think it was rather effective for its time. It just wasn't enough. Obviously, you could have drawn more lines, and built more boxes, but that obviously takes more fighters, more ground personnel, more radars, more searchlights, more of everything. So, and even then, how effective was it going to be? And are you just simply costing more than you're saving? So there is that as well. All right. Wehrkress 4. A Wehrkress was German military district. Was this okay? Okay, so this was the Germans' recruiting and training system. This is 4. This will include the Greater German Reich, which Danzig, Poznan, Krakow, Prague in English. Okay, which will lose 1% of ICs and 1% of supplies, but we'll gain the manpower. Lose a little starting because we'll get some of the, I think, the units there. and some unit training, but obviously national manpower is plus 1.5%, organization, regain rate, and organization officer recruitment. So I'm going to go yes. Yeah, we'll get that. Start construction of flak towers. Okay, this is what we were just talking about in the last event thing of the Kammhuber Line. There's a plan. Yeah. Okay, so after the first raids in Berlin, constructing of 3 massive flak towers. I think 1 or 2 of them are still there in Berlin to this day. Saw a documentary. One is sort of like a mostly a hill, but they've sort of buried it, but you can get inside. You know, they have it sort of sealed up so that people just don't wander into it. But they're doing archaeological research in there, and I think maybe another one still exists, but 1 or more of them I think was. So I think they may have built more than 3. I don't know, but there's at least 1 that's still. Okay, these must be Hitler's sketches that they're talking about. You can read it in much more detail. Triangular formula. Now, there's all kinds of dangers going on, of course, in an air raid, and so Germans, British, the air raid people wore helmets. If you look at a lot of the Luftschutz helmets, they're some of the Luftwaffe units, the flak units, were wearing military helmets, but the Luftschutz wore a lighter weight helmet, thinner material, maybe not lighter overall, but thinner material that was a bit larger and a bit greater brim. Because all of these flak towers were putting up flak, and all the rounds, because they had heavy flak guns that up to 128, I believe, is how big they got, though some of the earlier standards were the 88 millimeter guns. But they also had 20 millimeter and 37 millimeter auxiliary guns mounted on these towers, as well as the location. But all these rounds were designed to at some point eventually self-destruct, blow up, and which the way they were designed to operate was put out a lot of fragments. Well, all those things are raining down on you, or down on the city. So, and they can still have a lot of momentum, and obviously depends on their size. They can kill you. So they wanted a helmet that was enough to, generally speaking, deal with these, fragments. You could still be wounded by them, but hopefully it would be just a minor wound and not a major head wound or some other thing, as it was, you're shooting whether straight up in the air or just generally up in the air, and these flak burst out, and then everything eventually comes to the ground. Some in a straight line, some in a sort of up and then back down trajectory, but so that these were dangerous. Now, by getting them up on the tower, the increased height, as in closer to the aircraft, I don't know that really made any real difference, but it allowed for more horizontal shooting if they were coming in lower, because you're shooting over the buildings, instead of having flak guns mounted in the streets, because then your fire arcs are constrained by the buildings around you. And if you put them up on the roofs, well, fires that spread through the city, being bombed out, the recoil, a light 20 millimeter on some of the roofs very well may be easily to brace up and mount there, but putting the heavier guns, particularly like the 128 millimeter gun, you can't put that on any basic conventional roof of any sort. So if you mount it down in the street, you can have a limited fire arc. So if you put it up on one of these towers, you have a greater fire arc, plus the ability to depress the guns, maybe not quite to horizontal, but down lower to shoot out, stuff over a bit more on the horizon. And still, because it's not height that so much bursts the shells, it's flight time, so long as they're blowing up high enough. So what does this do for? Lots of supplies. So just air defense. Yeah, okay, we'll go for it. We care. Expand the air bases, yes. Bulgarians in a fight. But now obviously the rest of the units are coming there, they're not going to win, but now we're going to have one of the best mountain warfare generals take his panzers into the mountains. There's a Bonzone one there. Okay. Now, this is something you need to be sort of careful with here. This fate of the defeated Yugoslavian fleet. Do you want supplies or you want the ships? Well, we're obviously doing a Mediterranean strategy, so we want the ships. What? Angling Sud, they built a series of these tunnels around Germany that really didn't go anywhere. Hitler primarily traveled, well, I don't know, that's the wrong term. Hitler traveled a lot by train. They like to have Hitler travel by train because it was a controlled situation. You know, you're not worried about storms or other things, so he also flew a lot. So they built several of these tunnels to put the trains into as sort of a base to hide them there from bombing attacks. A lot of work to produce them. I think the fortress level is way out of proportion. The anti-aircraft guns are probably out of proportion, and we're just not going to do that. We don't need to do some of these things. Now, we have a unit, but these things start out, and they probably shouldn't be as 1% and such. That's just a little too low. And what I've had happen a few times is the British will come over and bomb them before they get any sort of strength. So what we're going to do is put them all in here so they're protected by the German units that we had assembled there. Okay, I think we're going to use this opportunity to quit. Hope you're all enjoying this. We're going to be continuing it, obviously. Please post questions, please comment, and if you do, please like the videos. I do appreciate that. See you next time.